I would like to start today's video by stating very plainly that I do not care about either of the people who are at the center of what I'm about to talk about today. This is to say that I have no dog in the fight. I don't see a side that's better than the other. I actually think there's a lot of losers here. But with that said, let's discuss Brangelina. For millennials who have been paying attention since the very beginning around 2004, 2005, probably not all that surprised to see that Brad and Angelina are broken up today, but what might be a little bit shocking is the fact that the children seem to be distancing themselves from Brad Pitt publicly. And because there are children involved, that's one of the main reasons that I say that nobody really wins here, because I think lots of people have been hurt through the events that have happened between Brad and Angelina that led to their split. So I don't really see anybody coming out of this situation being the victor, being better, none of that. But I am noticing that the public seems to be siding with Angelina a little bit more, and I believe that that's because of the public perception that she has as a battered wife and mother. And again, I want to be clear here, when I say that I don't care about these people, that really is what it is, the two individuals themselves, Brad and Angelina, but that's not to say that I turn a blind eye to domestic disputes or to violence or manipulation, triangulation, any forms of abuse. That's not my jam. Those who know me know that I often think about the kids because the adults who were around me when I was growing up often weren't thinking about me as a child. But before we go further, hi, my name is Antoinette Chanel. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back if this isn't your first rodeo. I think that it's disingenuous to act like Brad Pitt is the sole perpetrator for everything that went down between he and Angelina and why the children are seemingly responding to that and all of that. I think that it's wrong to paint him as the villain, as he was the person who caused all of this, because I don't think that he acted alone. I also don't think it's fair to blame any sort of abuse, manipulation, or harm to the children solely on Brad. We didn't live in their house, so we don't know how they spoke to each other, how they spoke to the kids, none of that. I think that we have plenty to point out that there was at least one physical altercation that happened that involved the children, but outside of that, we really can't say. So in case you haven't heard, you've been living under a rock, or maybe you've just been minding your business, which is fine. All of the Jolie Pitt children have now come out to drop the Pitt surname from their names publicly. And just a small tidbit, but whenever you're filing a name change, you do have to put a declaration of what your new name is in a court-approved newspaper publication. So I don't think that it's the kids running to the tabloids to be like, hey, I hate my dad and I'm dropping his surname. That's not what's happening. I think that someone got word of the first notice. I don't know if it was Maddox or if it was Zahara, which one of them filed first, but someone got a hold of that. And I think that the paparazzi, the tabloids, they've just been watching the news to see, okay, is there going to be another declaration around the time of one of these kids' birthdays? So that's why it's being reported on the way that it is, but I don't think the kids themselves are running out to go tell widespread news sources that this is what they've done. I think that they are just following what the court ordered them to do, which was to publicly declare what their new names were in a court-approved publication. But with these name changes, it's been implied that the children are doing this out of protest because they don't appreciate the way that Brad Pitt treated their mother, Angelina, as well as them. And that's another serious matter too. I'm never gonna try to qualify or explain away any sort of violence or abuse towards anybody. I just think that that is problematic when people start looking to find excuses to qualify why someone might have acted in an abusive manner or why they might have spoken in an abusive manner. I think that we make way too many excuses for people's abusive behavior these days. I can also have empathy for people who want to place distance between themselves and other people who they might have been linked with in the past, such as a parent. I think that's especially understandable when the child is viewing the parent or parents as unsafe people in some regard. So they feel that they can't trust being themselves around these people or sharing their lives with these people because it's unsafe for some reason. I'd say that I'm really here to advocate for a more neutral spin on what brangelina was and what they have become in the aftermath. I also want to assert that any children that Brad and Angelina share, they have a right to their own personas, their own identities, their own lives. I don't think it's fair that their identities have to be cloaked in who their parents are. And in some cases, I think we do a major disservice to these kids. I'm calling them kids even though they're of age simply because I'm referring to the children of that union that Brad and Angelina had. But I think that it is more than enough, more than fair for kids to be able to establish themselves and their own identities, have their own autonomy, and be treated as such rather than always being referred to as Brad and Angelina's kids, or somehow insisting that because their two parents are Hollywood A-listers, that somehow means that they have to play a role in that at all. But let's start with Angelina Jolie. In particular, I would say that Angelina Jolie is the one celebrity who has done probably the most successful PR pivot, cleanse, and repositioning of her brand. Because, well, I'll get into the reasons why I say that a little bit later. But Angelina Jolie puts out the message that she is a humanitarian. She is somebody who cares about deep human-related causes on this earth, and she is committed to doing work for those. She also is seen as someone who doesn't really play the Hollywood game because she has mentioned publicly that she does not have a publicist. I think that if you mix together the humanitarianism, the fact that she says that she doesn't have a publicist, and most people believe her just based off of what she says, and also the fact that it's been a long time now since Angelina has really partaked in any of the sort of shenanigans of Hollywood. You know what I'm talking about. It's the kind of stuff that early 2000s socialites and starlets were getting into, you know, being popped coming out of a nightclub and you're clearly very inebriated, your hair is messed up, your makeup's messed up. You know, they caught several pictures of Britney looking indecent as she was trying to get into her car while also wearing a mini skirt or a short dress. Those kinds of things. Hollywood parties. We don't really see Angelina involved in a lot of that and haven't in at least 20 years. And as a result, Angelina has gotten to look very noble to the public over the last 20 years because she comes across as somebody who is humble, somebody who cares about causes outside of herself. She is selfless in that way. Her public image is equated with generosity, with caring deeply about the human condition, especially in areas with less privilege, less development. And so as a result, here in 2026 today, a large portion of the public sees Angelina Jolie as a saint-like creature, someone who, why would anybody take issue with her or be suspicious of her or think the worst of her? I think she was an ambassador, or maybe she still is an ambassador to the UN. So most people just assign Angelina Jolie with a halo in public perception because she's done a really good job over the last 20 years to build that and maintain that. But I personally think that that is giving Angelina Jolie way too much credit. I don't believe that this woman is truly as deeply invested in the causes that she is publicly linked to, but it looks really good for her that she is. Let's not be foolish. Just like any other celebrity, Angelina Jolie knows how to play on public perception. She knows what it means to craft a public image. And then don't forget the fact that before she is a humanitarian and all of those things, she's an actress. So that means she knows how to play her part well and convincingly. She knows what to say, what mannerisms to adopt. She also knows how to be quiet and just let the public respond. It has long been speculated that while Angelina and Brad and Angelina's adopted son, Maddox, vacationed in, I think it was Kenya? A lot of you who are millennials, you know what I'm talking about. This was that picture that was taken on the beach with Brad, Angelina, and Maddox. And that photo was taken right after or in the midst of the publicity run for Mr. and Mrs. Smith, which was the movie that introduced Brad and Angelina in the first place. Both of them have insisted that there was no overlap between their relationship and the relationship that Brad had with Jennifer Aniston, who he was married to at the time that he started filming Mr. and Mrs. Smith. But then this picture makes its way to the tabloids, and it was almost like these two were denying everything in real time, but the photo was being released to show that, yes, clearly they do spend time together when they're not working together. And it's been largely speculated that Angelina was the one who alerted that paparazzi to take those photos. And the reason people speculate that she alerted them is because, well, I mean, the timing was just so interesting, and it was a way of her to communicate to the world that, yes, I am involved with this man, even though I'm telling you out of my mouth that I'm not. But I want y'all to see here that clearly I am. That was her way of staking her claim and maybe even sending a subliminal message.
What about this picture? This picture that this man, what, can you believe some guys, what? A paparazzi photographer got $500,000? Is that right?
I have no idea.
$500,000. Long lens pictures of you in Africa with Brad. I mean, this is insane. I would say it's insane. What do you say it is?
You know, you bought it, you're holding it.
I didn't buy it.
But I mean, the fact is, it's part of your program. It's something we're talking about still. Probably why he got $500,000. It's just, what do you, I mean, you know, that day needs to forever be a day that I made a sandcastle with my son. And that's what that will always be.
I have also taken notice in the last 5 years or so that anytime there's any sort of news involving the kids, somehow it gets wrapped up in Angelina way more than it does Brad. So I know I just mentioned a few minutes ago that I think that we need to treat all of their children as individual people with their own identities. They don't need to be cloaked in this whole like, oh, Brangelina's kids, like that's not fair. We need to stop doing that. But what I have noticed is that whenever there is news that is pertaining to the individual children, let's take Zahara, for example. Zahara applied, got accepted to Spelman, and now she's graduated from Spelman, an HBCU. Every single one of those news stories that talked about her time at the HBCU seemed to always mention Angelina in some way, or have Angelina and Zahara pictured next to each other, which I always thought was an interesting choice. It felt like Angelina really wanted us to know that she was doing right by her Black daughter, I guess. It also felt like she wanted us to know that she was more in tune with the kids' needs than Brad was. Similarly, in a lot of these news stories that are being written about these name changes and the kids wanting to distance themselves from Brad by dropping his surname, I've noticed that most of the photos that accompany those stories also show just Angelina with the kids, either with the child in question, the specific child who is getting the write-up, or her with the entire brood of kids. But This does a lot for influencing public perception because now people are linking Angelina and the kids and this move away from abusive Brad. They're linking those two things together, even though we don't actually have any hard evidence that proves that we can do that. We don't know the ins and outs of that family because we don't live with them. We didn't live in their house. So these are all assumptions that the public is making, but these assumptions go in Angelina's favor every single time. I also bristle at the take that a lot of modern women have today about Angelina because I remember her past.
What's the most exciting thing you guys have ever done in a car individually or together?
I think it was today. My favorite one in a car was today, just before we got here. What is this, MTV?
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Well, you want me to be honest with you? We in the car on the way here. Yeah.
And it was the most exciting thing.
Yeah, every time it is.
You two wrote your names, or wrote a pact in blood, something like that, saying that you will never be away from each other when each of you is filming a movie. Am I getting that right?
Well, it's kind of like that. We signed our life away to each other on our anniversary. Even it was notarized that we couldn't. I mean, if there was even, the thing is, we're never going to separate. So it was our way of saying to each other, we're together forever. We're so in love. We're best friends, and it's, but we kind of signed our life away to each other, and legally, and with blood, that there's no possible way anybody can separate or walk away from this, and just did different things to confirm that, but not that we needed to, but we just wanted to.
We are not our pasts, that's true, but it feels like a bit of a stretch to say that Angelina Jolie is this docile, fear-filled creature who doesn't get any sort of get back when she's in an argument or, heaven forbid, a physical altercation. I'm just not willing to believe that Angelina doesn't say and do shitty things whenever she's upset or whenever she feels like she's not getting her way, the same way most people do, especially given her past. Actress Laura Dern has stated that while she and Billy Bob Thornton were engaged, she traveled to work on a project, and while she was gone, Billy Bob met Angelina on the set of a film called Pushing 10. I've never seen it before, but those of you who remember that was the set where they met. And that was also the set where they hooked up and became an item. And next thing Laura and the public knew, they were married in May of 2000. And it's been reported that Laura found out when the public found out. Isn't that an interesting story? I mean, it's not at all dissimilar from how she met Brad. As you might recall, and we've mentioned it already, Brad and Angelina met on the set of Mr. and Mrs. Smith. So I don't know, for some people they might think, that's a one-off. For me, I personally see that and my pattern recognition kicks in. This seems like her thing. But I've spent the majority of this video detailing Angelina and just all of the ways that she uses public perception in her favor, but I'm not really buying it. But let's talk about Brad. Okay, so I wrote down this quote that Brad gave in 2011. He said, "One of the greatest, smartest things I ever did was give my kids Angie as their mom. She is such a great mom. Oh man, I'm so happy to have her." He said this in 2011 about Angelina Jolie. I bring that quote up simply because when it comes to Brad, as far as his abuses and whether he was physically advancing on his children, on his wife at the time, they say he has a drinking problem. I mean, that all can very well be true. I don't know. I wasn't on that plane ride. I wasn't there. But what I will say is the same way that Angelina knows how to play on public perception, she knows how to use public perception in her favor, Brad does too. Please don't forget that Brad Pitt is part of the old class of celebrity, when A-list meant something big. That means that Brad Pitt is very well versed in how to use public perception. He's got publicists. He knows what headlines will do. He knows what pictures will do. He knows what being caught saying something like that will do. That's creating a soundbite that's going to travel around the world in 60 seconds. He knows all of those things. So when he makes a quote like that, after it's been speculated that he and Jennifer Aniston had troubles with expanding their family, for whatever reason, they never welcomed any children together. For him to turn around and make a quote like that seems like a major nasty dig towards Jen. There was also a photo shoot that took place right after Jen and Brad divorced, depicting Angelina and Brad, and I think possibly Maddox was in this photo shoot, depicting them as like this 1970s couple, this like retro shoot with all these kids around them. And now this photo shoot that I'm talking about, this would have predated the quote that he made in 2011 about Angie being the greatest mom or whatever. But that photo shoot came out either in 2005 or 2006. It was right after he and Jen had divorced. And Jennifer Aniston went on record stating that she felt that that was very insensitive. It was rude. Clearly, he is not reading the situation the way that I would have read it, because I wouldn't have done that, was basically the summation of what she said. But clearly, these things have been digs at his ex-wife. And in my opinion, those are really immature ways of going about letting your ex-wife or people who support her know how you feel about her. And I want to be clear and say that I'm not really here to like take up for Jennifer Aniston either. I'm not really a big fan of hers either. That's not to say I'm a hater, but I really do mean it when I said I don't have a dog in this fight. So I'm not here to be like, oh, Jen, justice for Jen. No, not really. That was really terrible, the way that Brad and Angelina acted, and for that, I can have empathy. But that's about as far as it goes for me with Jennifer Aniston. More than anything, I would just say that I side-eye Brad and Angelina a lot more because of the choices that they made right after his divorce from Jen. They were making choices that they knew would hurt her, and of course, I'm not gonna be a fan of that. And so to conclude, I guess what I would say is Brad and Angelina were celebrities when we all got introduced to them. They were celebrities when they met and hooked up. They were celebrities when they got married, and they are still celebrities now that they are divorced. As such, they move like celebrities. They walk, talk, and act just like celebrities, even when it comes to their very public divorce. All they've ever been doing is crafting a persona to sell to us that we would find palatable. I think that anybody who believes that there is a side to take in the Brad and Angelina split, anybody who thinks that has been ignoring all of the evidence and clues that we've been given over the years. Not the least bit of which being the actual filings that have gone along with both the divorce proceeding as well as the incident that took place on that 2016 private jet flight where Brad Pitt reportedly got violent with both Angelina and the kids. And for that, I really just want to read from the news article that I found on NPR. Now, this article was published in 2022, but I'm just going to read part of it to say, Pitt's aggressive behavior began even before the family got to the airport, with Pitt having a confrontation with one of the children. After the flight took off, Jolie approached Pitt and asked him what was wrong, the filing says. Pitt accused her of being too deferential to the children and verbally attacked her. Later, it says he pulled her into the bathroom and began yelling at her. Pitt grabbed Jolie by the head and shook her, and then grabbed her shoulders and shook her again before pushing her into the bathroom wall. One of the children, who were between the ages of 8 and 15 years old at the time of this incident, verbally defended Jolie, the countersuit says, and Pitt lashed out. I will leave the link to this article in the description for this video so that you can take a look at that yourself. But personally, the only people who I feel sorry for in this situation are the Jolie Pitt children. And I think that the Jolie Pitt children can do whatever they want with their lives, and we shouldn't be prying into that at all. The public, the same way that they get obsessed with Northwest or Blue Ivy Carter, the public is obsessed with these young people because that's just what the public does. But the public needs, well, the public will never learn to back off. The children, I hope that they understand that they don't owe us anything and that they live their lives accordingly because they are their own people, regardless of who their parents were and what their parents have done. Those are my thoughts. Thanks for making it to the end of the video. If you liked what you saw and you want to see more from me, consider hitting that subscribe button so you can see all my playlists and get notified every time I upload to this channel. If you want to keep up with behind the scenes lifestyle stuff, you can follow me on Threads. Take care.